Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. It's Kim here, and today look at this fun pile of goodies here on my desk. All these vintage photos. Aren't they just amazing? I know some of you have commented on my collections before, that my last scrapbook that I got, where I got all these photos for $3 for the whole scrapbook. And so I have these here, but these are all fake. They are fake. But would you believe me when I said they're fake? Look at this. Doesn't that look awesome? With this scrapbook, black scrapbook page. There's a nice little scenery. There's this image here. They're all fake. Every one of them. There isn't a real photograph in the bunch. And so I'm going to show you today how quick and easy it is to make these things. So just let me move these out of the way, and I will come back to these and we'll talk about them a little bit more. Look at that. Very cute. Fake. And I could go on. All right, Kim. Fake it is. Look, that's my Uncle Bob. There's my Aunt Millie when she was a young girl. She was a dancer. And then she married Uncle Fred and ran away to join the circus. There you go. Okay, so they're out of my way for now. So yes, you guys had commented on my scrapbook, and a lot of you have said that, you know, you'd give anything to find these photos, and they're not easy to find. Yeah, and I scored at $3, right? But it's just one of those things. And so eventually one day you will find a scrapbook in the wild. Whether you'll pay $3, I don't know. Maybe you'll come across a box of photos at an antique or an estate sale or something. Or, you know, ask your friends, because a lot of people have black and white photos, and a lot of people have their grandmother's or their mother's photos that have people they don't even know who they are. So ask around. You'd be surprised at how many people have some fun photos that you can use to play with. But if you don't have them, it's very easy to find them. The fake ones. So I'm just going to put this scrapbook on the floor. There we go. So, sorry, some of the sources for getting images. Now, I have pulled this out of this, one of these knitting magazines here. I think it was this one. So, some of these images can be cut out to use for vintage photos. And this would be a fun one, actually, with her shielding her face from the sun, or the fake sun. Fake photo, fake sun. So I'm going to keep her aside. We're going to use her. But I got these out of one of these knitting magazines. And so there's some beautiful images in here. I think I paid 25 cents for this knitting book. So, you know, visit your thrift shops and look for these. They're in the sewing section a lot of times. And a lot of times they end up in the landfill because people aren't doing these old patterns, although there are a lot of really nice sweaters in here that would be very current for today. Another one that I pulled images from is this baby one. Like, look at this. Isn't that sweet? Now, these are a little bit big for what we're doing for today, but I would certainly use them in my journals. They're just such cute little images of little, like, look at her. Isn't she adorable? And some of them are just so fun. So there's another source for you. This is an old yearbook, which is where I pulled some of the pictures from. I love these big class pictures the most, as opposed to using these ones. Although these ones are great for making those fake ID cards and stuff. But these are, you can usually find these quite easily. And, you know, lots of group pictures, which I love. I love the group shots. And this one is from 1952. So, yeah, they're easily available. And here's another one on making hats. And usually on these magazines, you'll find the colored pages on the outside, but then when you open it up inside, they're all black and white. And so you can pull some nice headshots out of here. Like this would be a really cute photograph to use. And like there's some candid ones that are quite fun. Like the hats are pretty cool on these. I hope you can see them. So there's another source for you. You can use the colored ones too, but we're making fake photos or fake old photographs. So put that on the floor. Another source for images is, now I cut these out of a book, and they're just black and white photos. I think it was a brochure actually, and they're just black and white photos from a catalog. I think it might have been the Netherlands or Sweden. I don't remember, but they were just some old pictures that I cut out. So there's another source there, and just to give you another idea, I'm going to put those aside because we'll work with those. I went to the thrift shop just the other day because I said I wanted to show you how easy it was to find these. Well, I found 2 books in 5 minutes, and they were each 50 cents. Now this one is The Magic of Dance, and there are lots of old pictures in here. So you just have to look for these old reference books. You know, like this was a great find. There's a lot of full-size images, but I would use those for something else. But there's lots of smaller images that could easily be used to create faux photographs. So this, like I said, I found this in 5 minutes, and a lot of these images I actually have in my collection of digitals, and so digitals are a fine source for material as well, and you just would print them in black and white instead of in color, so that you can use them in your art and make them look old. So again, oh, isn't she gorgeous? But there are lots of small images here that would be perfect to use for making faux vintage photos. So put that aside. Now I'm not going to cut into any of these books here because I have more than enough to show you with that. This was, again, I cannot believe I found this in 5 minutes. And these were 50 cents a book. So this one is on Deutschland, which is Germany. So it's all written in German. It's not an old book, but it is a reference book. Now let's just see if there is a date in here. 1966. Yeah, so it's not that old. What I like about this book is there's a lot of non-glossy images here at the beginning. And there's lots of colored ones too. And a lot of these I will turn into postcards by cutting them out and then gluing something on the back and turning the colored ones into postcards. So something like this can even be cut into 2 postcards quite easily, or made into a folded journaling card. So lots of material in here to source. But when I was flipping through, because that's what I did, I just started flipping through and I found black and white photographs. Now this is on Germany, so there is some stuff on World War I and World War II that I would not use because they're not nice. But there are a lot of nice images and portraits that could be used, as well as some fun images for oh, look at all the maps in here. I hadn't really looked at this that closely, but there's a lot of landscape, and I like landscape images the most. And the reason for that is they're kind of not dating in any period. So if you're doing a retro journal, for example, you can have a photograph of something like this that's an older photograph, and it'll blend in really nicely. You can be doing a boho journal and this will work. A black and white photo of a woman with her brand new range and a frying pan in her hand, or a quart of milk in her hand, kind of says, retro. So you're limited to how you can use them. And also clothing is an indication of time period. So depending on the journal you're making and how you're using it, you may be restricted as to how you can incorporate it into your journal. But landscapes can be incorporated into all kinds of journals. Same with animals or flowers or birds or anything like that. So, and even postcards, it can be an older black and white postcard. It can be a colored postcard, as long as the time period doesn't show, landscape building or high-rise buildings and more modern photography. But this type of thing can be used across a much wider spectrum for time periods. But yeah, lots of great material in here. Like this would make a fun photo to put in a journal. In fact, let's just take this one out too. I have to decide on what I want to use it for. Because I'm torn between using this side or the black and white side. So you can see I have lots of material. That's all colored images there. And towards the back, there's more black and whites because it was, based on I guess, the era. So yeah, lots of fun images that I can pull from here. So that just gives you some idea of where you can source these materials. So other than having the image, the other thing that you need, or that I wanted to use, was an old scrapbook, because I love these black and white or these black photo books. And this is a genuine photo book. When I got it, it didn't have any pictures in it, but it was wonderful that it still had all of the corners in it. Now, I cut my fingernails again, so I don't know. I need a tool to... Oh, I've got something I can use to lift these off. Yeah, I can use this to pull these off, I think. They're not stuck on here really, really well. And I saved all these corners to use for my pictures. So I'm just taking them off this one to show you, because I'm not going to spend a lot of time making these. But when you see how I make them, you will be amazed. So yeah, I'm just pulling these corners off of the little photo sheet so that I can reuse this paper. And a lot of times you can find these albums in the thrift shop without pictures, and they're so cheap. And you may think, well, I don't want, when you take the corners off, they look scruffy. And that's okay, because we're recreating faux photographs. So the scruffy background is exactly how people would have treated their photo albums of the day. They would have had their photos in here, and maybe somebody came along that wanted a picture, so they would have taken that picture out, and sometimes the corners came off with it, and then they put another picture on there after when they had something else. They reused and repurposed, not like we do. We throw everything away, which is why these end up in the landfill. So when I pull the little corners off of them, and I reuse the corners too, but when I pull the little corners off of them, I'm happy to use this just the way it is. So I've got a few here to play with. But if you don't have this, maybe you haven't found a scrapbook yet, but you will. Now that you know what you're looking for and what you're going to use it for, you will find these things. They're out there in the wild. But if you don't have this, black cardstock will work just fine. Black construction paper looks even better because it has a much more worn look and tears and really nice. So I don't know, a lot of times the kids, when I go to the thrift shop, the kids don't seem to want to play with the black colored cardstock, probably, or construction paper, probably because they don't have the tools to write on it. Not everybody has white gel pens to write with. So a lot of times in the thrift shop, it's like half of the package is the black and a few, green. No, I think green is another color they don't seem to like. And I always seem to find those packages, then I laugh. It's like, oh yeah, they didn't like the black because they couldn't write on it. And so a lot of times when you're looking through the thrift shop, watch out for construction paper, because this is construction paper is great for doing this, and it's available very inexpensive. But construction paper, I mean, you can buy a whole pad of it very inexpensively at the dollar store or at your local stationery store. And I think now they even separate them by colors in some cases. So you can get, 50 sheets or 100 sheets very inexpensively. And worst case scenario, you can use your black cardstock, which again is available at your local Michael's or craft shop, wherever you have paper. So to source this material, there you go. You've got lots of places to source that. So I'm just going to put this aside now. And then the third thing, because I know you're going to say it next, is these little corners. Now, I peeled these ones off of this page, and I'm going to use those because, they can be reused. No, I'm not going to lick them. I wouldn't lick them to begin with, but I'm just going to glue my photos into the corners, which I will show you. But you can also buy them. And I've seen them at the dollar stores. Just go wherever they have the picture frames. And they come in, packages like this for a couple of dollars. The real photo corners. You can find them at places where they have, cameras, where they might have albums and photo corners. Because for some reason people now are getting back into the nostalgia of putting their photos in scrapbooks with these little corners. You can also find them in gold and silver, which I have. I even have a package of vintage ones in the original package. Look at this. I'm going to redo this package, like I'm going to to fix it. But these ones are white, although they're not white anymore. But if you keep your eye out, you will find these. And another thing I'm going to say, which is going to probably make you laugh, is ask grandma or your elder aunt, because they kept these, and they were so inexpensive to buy, and a lot of times they bought 2 or 3 packages thinking they were going to use them all. But like this one comes with 300 and some of them come with 250 or something like that. And they have them in a little baggie, and you know where they are. I'll tell you exactly where they are at Grandma's house. They're in the box with all the negatives, and that's why they had to keep buying them, because they forgot they were with the negatives of all the pictures that they'd taken over the years. And so they accumulated these corners, and they're sitting in the box of negatives. I promise you, if you go and look, you will find them. Grandma's got some, or your auntie's got some, or you will find them at thrift shops as well. But if you just absolutely cannot source them anywhere, I will show you how to make them. So there is absolutely no reason why you couldn't have these faux vintage photos. We've got the means for the images. In fact, this one here is a Tim Holtz, out of one of those Tim Holtz packages. I think these both are. Yeah. So we've got the photos. You know how to source the photos now. We've got the paper. You know where to source the paper, and you're going to learn how to make the corners as well. So let's get started. I'm going to show you how quick and easy it is to make these things. Now I will leave a few corners out because I don't have very many here. Now I'm not going to take the time to do this, but when I cut the pictures out of a book, I made sure to cut and leave a little bit of the white around the outside edge, just enough to look like how a photo looked like, where it had this white border around it. So that's all I did. I just chopped it with my scissors and left a little bit of the margin on the outside. Now in the case of this one, there isn't a margin around the outside. So I will cut it out and then just glue it to the back, or glue the back to some white paper and then cut that out. Or in this case, it's kind of yellowy, so I might use like an off-white color. I think I have some paper here. Yeah, I do. So this is just from a Sears catalog, I think. It's not really white, it's kind of an off-white. So I'm just going to take my scissors and cut out the image. Now, if it had, you see how there's this white margin, if this went all the way around, of course, then I would use that instead of trying to I think I'm using my scissors upside down. I am. First I'm just going to cut along here, and then I'm going to use my cutter. Just make it easier to make a more rectangular square. And my cutter is in the pile here. Boy, if you saw my desk, the rest of it, you would just be like, oh my gosh, Kim. So I'm just going to cut her so that she's kind of squared off. And trim her down a little bit. We don't need all of that border. And I don't want that number in there. And then I'm just going to trim her down here a little bit. So that's all I've done is trimmed her out of the page. But if she had a white border around her, I would have cut it out around the white border. So instead, I'm just going to take my glue stick and put some glue on the back. And just kind of line it up so that there's a nice little margin around the edges. And I'm going to catch that corner because I see it's lifting. And then just taking my scissors, I'm going to trim her out. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Nobody's going to notice. They're just going to wonder where you got all these old pictures from. Okay, so she is trimmed out of the page, and now she has a white border around, just like you would get a photograph. Now these corners, I open them up. I'm just going to use my pokey tool because I just cut my fingernails. I open up, and now I do everything with my hot glue gun for this, only because it's faster. You can certainly use your tacky glue, your Fabri-Tac, or your art glitter glue, but I don't want to take that time, especially when I'm filming, but I always do these the same way. So just taking my hot glue, I just put a little dot on the back part of the photo corner. And then I just push it onto the edge of the corner of the picture and push it down. Now, when they did this for real, they just lay the corners down on the four corners, and they were sticky on the back. And the idea was that you licked them. Back in the day, we used to do that. We used to lick stamps, remember? But you licked them and then put them down on the page. The problem with that, although it is kind of fun, is that if you look at a scrapbook, they were never perfectly straight. People, by the time they licked it and got it nailed, tacked down to their page, it had moved a little bit. Which is another reason why a lot of scrapbooks have where it's torn off and redone, because people didn't like it if it was crooked, or the picture didn't sit in there properly, which is fun to see those things in old photographs too, or old photograph books. So for the sake of this, I am gluing them in place because I don't want them to be crooked. As much as it is funny, it's not part of the art plan. The journal plan. So I'm just opening it up, sticking my glue inside, and tucking it in the corner. Now I put a little bit too much on this one, but I can fix that up after. And gluing it down. Same with this one. Now I have glue strings. So a little bit of hot glue, Not so much, Kim. You just want enough to tack it or hold it in place. So if you're doing this with your white glue or your tacky glue, just be sure to glue them all at once and then go on to the next stage after if you're doing a whole bunch of them. And I made all those that you saw in the pile there the other night. And I was getting almost addicted to making these things. So I think I've got a couple of days of working on these for myself. It is Friday, and I will be doing arm's length art tomorrow, whether I'm doing this or starting another project, because I do have another project in mind. But there she is. She's got her 4 corners on. So I'm going to do a couple more. I want to do this little landscape one, and maybe this one, and this group shot. So you'll just have to bear with me while I do them. Now I'm using the newer corners. And I did say I was going to show you, and I will. Oop. Dropped it. I don't know why I always do this intricate work when I've just cut my fingernails. But I had a busy morning. I made a pie this morning, an apple pie for my husband. He put in a requisition for pie. It's kind of a standing joke for us that he has to fill out form 172953 in order to get a pie. And it has to be at least 48 hours notice. So that I could prepare myself for pie making. In this case, I didn't have any pre-made dough left because I usually make enough for three or even 6 pies at a time, and then I stick it in the freezer. But this time I had to make it from scratch, so made the pastry dough and then put the pie together. So that was my morning. But I don't like dough under my fingernails, and I can't stand that thought of that. It just grosses me out. So I always have to cut my fingernails when I'm doing any kind of that kind of cooking where I'm touching stuff. And so now I can't pick anything up here. Okay, so I've got the corners on that one. I'm just going to do one more here. I'll do this little one, and then I will show you how to make corners. So while my pie, I only made one pie. And we're going to have it this afternoon with some tea. And then he can eat most of it the rest of the week. I got to quit eating this stuff. And then I do usually make pies at Christmas time. That's kind of our thing, is to have... I don't bake a lot of cookies and stuff like that. I might make some ginger cookies. That's about it. Because it's only the 2 of us, and then we eat it. And I don't want to eat all this stuff. And I have no willpower. None. So if it's not made, it's better. Okay, so just going to put a little dot of glue in this one. And then I will show you guys how to make these photo corners. Okay, so we've got a few done here. And then this one. So I've got a piece of white paper here just so that you can see better how to make these photo corners if you don't have them. I mean, if you're only going to do half a dozen images for a project, then you don't want to necessarily run out and search for these for days to find them. But, you know, once you find them, you have them in your stash. But if you don't have them, this is the easiest way to make photo corners. Now, using the same photo album, because I just cut off the end of it, I cut some strips that are 3/8 of an inch wide. Not half an inch. Half an inch is too big. 1/4 inch is too small. And all I do, like, here's the piece. All I do is I take the corner of the image, so that you can see what I'm talking about. The corner of the image here. And I line it up to that side, to this side of the black paper. I'm going a little bit more to the edge here. So it's lined up, but you can see how the triangle, I hope you can see, is not perfect. So you have to kind of, you know, use your eyes to make a perfect little triangle on the black. So it's just that part. You know what I mean? So if I just take this so you can see better, so that it's a perfect little triangle in that corner. And you kind of have to hold it with your finger. And now I'm just taking a pen, just a regular old pen, and I'm going to draw a line with my pen along that corner. And then I'm going to draw a line on this side with my pen on the corner. So when you take it off, you may not be able to see it on here, I'm not sure, but the pen does kind of show sort of a purpley color. Now you can use your stylus if you have a stylus, if you're doing you know, with your scoring, you can use a stylus, but a pen works just fine, and we always have a pen handy. Some kind of pen, or even a pencil would work. So once you can see the line, I just kind of push my pen and indent it a little bit, just a little bit like that, just running back and forth on it. And then I take my finger and I fold it along that line, and I fold this one along that line. Now I didn't line this up very good, I think, so I'm off a little tiny bit. I'm just going to bend that a little bit better. I didn't line my my pen mark perfectly. So then once you've got that folded, and I'm just going to take my scissors, you could use your bone folder, of course, and I'm just going to press it into place so that the folds are in there. So you can now see there's your two folds. I'm just going to open it up now. Can you see that? And then closing it. And then where the two ends meet at the back here, I'm just going to cut it off. And there is your photo corner. Now the only difference between this one and the one that's there is the back is open. So I'm now going to just take my picture, put the corner on so that the closed part is on the front. And then I'm just going to open up. Now you can do this all in one step once you get good at it. You can just hold it in place, make your marks to sort of score it, and then glue it down all at once. But for practicing, you may want to do it individually first. So there's your corner. Now, if you wanted to get really, really fancy, you could use you can put these strips through your embosser first so that they're a little bit more dimensional looking. But trust me, nobody is going to question your corners from this to this. No one would question them. So I'm just going to repeat the same thing. So putting my paper down on the table here, I'm going to take my next corner and line it up so that there's like a perfect little triangle there. And it probably should be just a hair away from that line so you get a much better corner. I realize that now. I should have done it a little bit away. And I just making sure you're holding the paper and the pen in place. I just go back and forth a couple of times. And you know, if you feel like you can do it all one step, then try doing it all in one step. I just fold my corners down along that line and take your bone folder and press it into place. And then cut it where the two ends meet. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, if it doesn't, I will show it in another video. If you don't understand what I'm saying, I will do it again on another video. So then taking your picture, wrapping it around the corner. You could even put a little dot of glue in the corner if you wanted. I don't bother. I just line it up. Now that the folds have been made, it's easy enough to hold it in place, put a little dot of glue. And this might be easier to do with your tacky glue as well. And then a little dot of glue on that side. And close it up. So now I'm going to do the same thing for the other two corners, only because, you know, I want it to look the same. So lining up my corner on this black paper. So there again, you are now in control of all aspects of making these photos. Now you don't have to use the black scrapbook paper to make the scrapbook, but I like the look of it, and it just says vintage, right? Now I use my fingers to just bend that, and my bone folder. Cut the end, open it up. So when I'm doing this kind of crafting, I always like to be in control of the supplies that I have. This way I am not dependent on finding something. I'm not dependent on having to pay a huge amount of money for something, like a photo book. Yes, I won't buy photos that are $100 for a scrapbook of photos. It's not worth it. You know, not for what we're doing. There's so many other methods of finding images to use for your art that it's just not worth spending that kind of money. And you know, it also depends on what you're doing with the scrapbook, if you're, or with the journal that you're making. So again, I'm just drawing my line here to know where to fold, and on here. And I'm already pressing into this pretty hard, so I know that it's kind of like scored already, so I don't have to go back and do it. But I'm just telling you, if you're not sure about it, you can always do that afterwards, after you've taken it off the photo. And then just folding it down. And again, I didn't line it up perfectly, so I have a little spot there. But again, nobody's going to be looking at the corner of this photo album to see how my corners are. They can't even see it on the black. You can also really do a little cheat and just make a little triangle corner if you wanted. But you know, if you don't glue it down properly, it's going to lift up. So wrapping it around the edge of the image is way it looks better, only because then it's not going to lift up. Oh, wait, put this in the corner first. And hold it. Fold that one down. And then do the same. So there you go. So again, you would never know the difference between that. It just looks like I'm using a different company's corners. It's the same thing. And if you want to emboss them before you put them on, or emboss them after you've cut the strips, or emboss the sheet before you cut the strips, then cut them, and then it'll give you a little bit more dimension, because these have some little decorative lines in them. But that to me is not something that is really significant to the construction of making these things. So the next thing is to create your photo album sheet. So, you know, they always maxed the most on their photos. So I'm going to choose my lovely lady here. I'm going to put her this way because I want to play with this paper here. And I'm going to put this one, is not going to fit. I'll put it on the next sheet, but I can put this one here. Actually, I'll save that for another one. I'm going to use this piece here. So all I did is I put glue just on the four corners, not covering the whole back of the photo, for two reasons. One, in an authentic photo album, they were not glued in. They weren't even glued into the corners. It was just the corners that were glued down, and then the picture could come out. And two, when you see what we're going to do with this after, you'll understand why. So I just put glue on the 4 corners to hold it in place on my scrapbook page. Now you could, if you wanted to create a fun album, if you have an album like this, you could put all your pictures and store them in there. I'm leaving a little bit of room because they would have placed these nicely to fit in their album. They wouldn't have had this one going this way, but I'm doing it this way for a reason. So that's placed in there. And now I'm going to do this big one. And again, I'm just doing the 4 corners, and I'm using my hot glue, but you can certainly use your regular glues that you have. And I'm tucking this one in here. Same thing. They would have used the maximum to, or used the least amount to get the maximum out of the page, but in our case, it's different. So this one, so now that I've got them in here, I could store them on these pages until I'm going to use them. Or I could store them in the whole album, or, if you're using construction paper, you could just store them in a file folder or whatever till you're actually going to use them. So when you get a black and white book where there's black and white images, cut them out. Cut them out as if they were photos and put them aside, or put them in the same file folders, all of these. And then when you want to use them, you've got them. And then some of them will already be ready with their corners on them. But then I tear it out to make it look like an old, torn out page from a scrapbook. Maybe somebody just wanted this one picture and they tore it out like that. You can also tear the bottom off, but you can leave the bottom on to maybe write with your gel pens, your white and gold or silver gel pens if you wanted on the black background. You could make some fake information on our trip to Italy. This was the passageway. Oh, you should see it. This was the passageway to the cute little market we went to, and our hotel was not very far. You can make up all these kinds of things, or put a date of 1827 on here. This was from my grandfather's photos from 1827. Whatever it is you want to do. But I just tore that little piece off. But this, is wide enough to make more corners. So you either cut your strips to 3/8 of an inch wide and leave them in the same container that you have all your pictures in. That's entirely up to you. So now this one, I put it on here because this was that little tabby piece that was on the end of the journal. And one of these days we should make these scrapbooks, the whole scrapbook. That would be a fun project to do too. So I'm just tearing it. I like tearing it both ways so that you have this scruffy edge, and then the other way so that the scruffy edge is on the other side. But it's a combination of both. And why did I leave this tab in here? Well, I'm going to fold it back and forth. And this can now become a flip in your journals. So let me just finish this one here, and we will go on to the next step, is how we're going to use them. Okay, so this one has that folded flap thing as well. So I'm going to now do the same thing, just put the glue on the 4 corners. And glue it into this piece right here. Okay, so there's 3 different images done. Now, if you want to use these as journal cards, sorry, that one's not done. If I wanted to use this one here as a journal card, something that you would put in a belly band. Again, it's not easy to write on the black unless you have a gel pen, but you can certainly add a piece of paper to the back. So I'm just going to you can get fancy and make it really vintage looking coffee stain paper, whatever you like on the back side, lined paper. You could put a couple of pages of a notepad on the back and make this into an instant journal card. You could make several pages of notes and paper on the back. Would be really cute too. No inking required on this unless you want to. It's not to say you have to use black. I just think it looks more authentic when you use black. Instant journal card to go in your journal. Now, I don't have a journal handy, but if you had a belly band on here, do I have something like a belly band? That's not the best, but if you had a belly band on here, of course this could go underneath the belly band. So it would sit there like a full-size journal card that you would pull out of the tuck spot, and you can write on and then slide it back in. You can add a tab. You can further embellish this with labels and things in color and you know, just fun stuff. You can add some lace trim if you wanted, although it does take away from the idea that it looks like a photo, right? Like a real scrapbook page. You can dog ear these a little bit, like squish them up so that it looks like it's more worn. Just maybe play around with it a little, and this is a journal card, right? The next thing is here, this one, because I had made that, kept that fold on there, it can be a top folding journal card. So you can glue it into your journal page on this side, or even on this side if you don't want it to show over there. So it can be a journal page that you now can lift up right inside here, have a notepad in here, whatever it is you like, and it can be a journal page. It can be a small one like this that, you know, if it didn't have this end, you know, something like this. Well, this one's got a flap too. Let's see if I got one here without a flap. Something like this can be a pocket. So in that case, you wouldn't want anything on the back of here. So this could be a pocket on your page that you can add stuff into it and just glue it on the three sides. It can be a tuck on the side of your page where you now glue it on the two sides, and you can use it to tuck something in on the side of your page. Going back to, well, let's go to this one, for example, this journal card that we've got the flap here. Now, it is the possibility of a journal card, so you could put your white paper on there. But something that you got to remember with all of these photos that we did is we only glued the corners, so you can still add things behind the photo. So not only is it a decorative photo piece, it is a spot to be a journaling card, a spot to have a hidden journal space, and a spot as a belly band to tuck items into it. So you can tuck from that side, or you can tuck from this side, depending on where your glue went. Here we go. It's coming. So you can have things coming tucked from all sides. Going back to this little one here that I had made. Now this is going the opposite way. I probably, for myself, I would have liked to have gone the other way, but if it were on the back side of this page, you can again glue this down and it becomes a little flip, just like the other ones. So you could even have a layer of these photos all on one page. Are you having fun now? Are you thinking of all kinds of things? I know you are. So you can have this one flip up. You can have this one flip the other way. I think I have some done the other way. And you can have a whole series of these flipping out and flip, you know, or a pocket. I do have some flipping the other direction, but I have to go through the pile. But I think you understand what I mean. So you could have a whole series of these images, like if this was going the other direction, not upside down, but you could have a whole series of these images that are interactive on one page. So, and then still have a pocket here to put something into. And all these additional belly bands. Although that does build up a lot of stuff on one page, if you're only putting smaller items in there, you can easily handle it, especially if it's just paper. So there you go. So that's just, look at that. And they look like authentic photos that you just tore out of a photo album. So I think you can have a lot of fun with this in playing. There are just so many ideas that come to mind. Like I said, I love the landscape, the still photos, the images of flowers and birds and animals, things that are not so dated, to really tell you what date it is. But it depends on what you're doing, and what photos you have. So you've got the source for photos, you've got the source for the papers, you've got the source for making the corners. Go make some of these. You are going to have so much fun. That's it. That's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I wish you all a very creative day and a creative weekend coming up. The weather in New Brunswick, we have no snow again. If you follow me on Facebook, we had a tropical storm that washed away all our snow. It even lifted our empty pool, and the empty pool landed on our car, but not too much damage, just a little dent on the hood. But today you would never know that happened. The weather is beautiful. We have absolutely no snow. It's only like -1 or -2, so it's just at the freezing point in Fahrenheit 0, I guess, is what our -2 would be. No, 32. I think it's 32 degrees for you guys, right? Our 0 is 32 degrees Fahrenheit, which is freezing point. But anyway, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful day, and hopefully the weather will stay like this, and maybe we won't have snow for Christmas. I came from Manitoba, where we always were dumped in snow, and my friends in Manitoba are talking about the snow right now. So I kind of like it when we don't have snow for Christmas. Sorry, that's just me. Anyway, I wish you all a creative weekend, and have fun doing something and play around with this. You are going to love it, and you're going to love how the results are so easy. Have a good day. Bye for now.